Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, or welcome along if it's your first time. And you join me today for a review of fantastic model 05 Rambo the Lambo. Now, I've had this figure for a couple of days. I've had a chance to play around with it, get a bit of a feel for it, get over my initial disappointment, more of which later. But I just want to do the usual stuff first, show you the packaging, show you the accessories, and then we'll take a look at the figure proper. So, yeah, as usual, pretty standard Fans Toys Fantastic Model, Robot Paradise, whatever they're calling themselves this week, box art. You've got the illustration on the front and then the classic poses, alt and bot mode on the back, along with the bio. I'll leave that up there for a little bit so that you can read or potentially pause it and have a read if you like. Anyway, let's get that out of the way now. We also get the manual, which goes through all of the fairly complicated steps required to transform him and gives you a few hints and tips about problem areas perhaps, and how to change the face, although that differs from the video they released online, and how to attach various accessories. You get your character card, standard stuff, tech specs in tiny font. I won't leave that up there for too long because you've already been able to read that on the box. And then I'm going to show the accessories, but I'm not going to go into massive detail about them because you're all clever people and you can intuit. So you get these two blast effects here, although I say blast effects, they're actually exhaust effects, and they look okay, but I think it's a missed opportunity because I just think that they would have looked really good connected to a jetpack, and we don't get one of those. We do get blast effects for his gun and his shoulder launcher though, if you like that kind of thing. We get two different pile drivers. We get, sorry, I'll do this the other way around. We get this silver chromed, pile driver there. And then we get the masher version, which always reminds me of making mashed potatoes. What we don't get, sadly, are the drills that some other versions of this character get, like the Bag Cube Steamroll, which is a pity. I like those as an add-on. We also get some replacement faces. Now, I've already replaced mine, so I'll show you what is left over. Here is the neutral face that he comes with as stock. Here we have, what do we got next? Oh, if I can pick it up without dropping it, that would help. This is a slightly downturned face. Here we have the de rigueur shouting face. And here we have a snarling, grimacing face, angry boy face, whatever. Hopefully those all came up okay on camera. And I'll show you the last face. Hello! I've already swapped it out, as I say. I've gone for his smiling face because I think that really suits the character. I love the chromed blue eyes as well. But anyway, that leads me neatly on to the figure himself. So let's bring him in. And I'll give you a chance to take a look at it first before I start discussing it in too much detail. I'll give you a quick 360 as well, just so you can see what he looks like from all angles. Pretty good is the answer to that. Anyway, that's what he looks like in bot mode. I just want to go through something, the elephant in the room first, because I have some strong opinions about one aspect of this figure. And I think it's fair to say that I've copped a bit of flack online on some forums for it. But I've been seeing people make comments about it, and I've seen some of the quote-unquote professional reviewers review this guy now, and they have some comments about it. And I often wonder if I see things like if I'm in another dimension where I'm the only one who's seeing things and I'm the weird one, which is entirely possible, I have to say. But that's the colours anyway. I'm talking about the colours. So for me, Sideswipe has got a pretty iconic colour scheme. He is red and white. And yes, I know that he has the two tones with the feet and the arms, but by and large, he's depicted as having a very red body with white legs and accents, midriff, all of that. Now, Fans Toys in the past has used pure white, brilliant white on their figures like Jive and Doc, etc. But they've also got form for what they've done here with Phantasm, whereby they've substituted pure brilliant white, which is what I would associate with the character, and especially with a character like Mirage, where he's got a lot more white on him than this guy. They've substituted it with a weird off-white, greyish looking pearlescent colour. And it bugs me. It really bugs me. It bugged me a lot more when I first got the figure and I got it out, because I was kind of hoping that maybe it was looking different on camera than it was in person. But no, it doesn't. And I don't know, all those people out there are saying that this is white. While they may technically be correct, I don't know what they're talking about when they say that it's, accurate to the animation or has the figure looked. Because it bloody well isn't. It's not. This in hand looks more grey than it does white. And the reason I have a problem with that, well, apart from the fact that it's going against 40 odd years of established continuity for the character, is that it lessens the contrast between the red and, more importantly, the arms and feet. So a lot of companies don't bother with these two tones. But by doing this, they've created such a minimal contrast that it's not even noticeable that they've done it as much as it would be had they gone with the white. And they've done it for the launcher as well. But then weirdly, they've done the gun in another colour, which was the colour they used for the prototype arms and feet, which was just a bizarre choice as well. But they've obviously wanted to cheap out and save money on the mould and just reuse that. So here we go, we've got yet another colour. And also the face, as I say, that's a lot lighter than it should be. The faces should be, I don't know if you can see it that well on that, but they are quite light, and they should not be light like that. They should be a darker grey. So I was, and still am to a degree, quite disappointed with the colours on this. But only those very minimal ones, the midriff, the accents, the legs, those are the only things. Everything else looks great. So yeah, just boggles my mind why they would choose to do that. It could have been a real home run, but it really did take the shine off of it when I first got the figure. Although, as I said, I've had a couple of days to sit with it now, and if I take my, if I take my sort of subjective view out of it, and I my own personal feelings, even though I am objectively correct about the colours, if I take that out of the equation, take the emotion out of it, if I didn't know the colours, I would say this looks amazing. So, it swings and roundabouts. It is a really nice looking figure. So I'm going to try and concentrate on that for the rest of the review. Now I've said my piece about the colours. Although knowing me, I'll slip back into the odd jab here and there. Anyway, let's get on with it then. So I'm giving you a 360 review. I've ranted about the colours. Now let's take a look at him in more detail. As you can see, I've already faction symboled him up. He's looking very smart there. So let's go over the articulation. First up, the launcher is on an armature or a little pivot there, so you can move it. Not much, but you get a little bit, so that's okay. The head is on a peg. It's quite stiff, but it does move side to side, as you would expect. You get a little bit of downward motion, not a lot, but more than you do on a lot of figures these days, and you get a good upward motion. Now, the arms, they're on a they're on a friction. You can go 360 on a friction out to the side as well. You get less than 90 with it, which is a bit disappointing, but it's to do with the design. And maybe you get a bit more, but I don't want to force it and break it. But no, it looks like the design, you're stuck with that, but it's okay. You get a bicep swivel, as you would expect. Now, one thing I do want to mention, because mine was different out of the box, it may catch some of you out. I don't know if you can see it, but on the shoulder here, on the bicep, there's a little metal slider. Now that's used to lock in this lower piece of the arm, which also rotates for transformation. So one of mine was not engaged out of the box. So when I was doing it, I was spinning the arm around. So you just want to make sure that that's engaged so that you don't end up with the lower arm moving independently of the bicep swivel. You get a reasonable elbow bend. Not amazing, but reasonable. And you get wrist swivel, and the fingers are on 4 molded fingers at the bottom and 1 trigger finger at the top. Pretty standard for a bot of this size. Don't normally get fully articulated fingers at this size, do you? And I don't know if this is an official one, official joint or not, but maybe it's because of transformation. But you can pull the wheel out here and get a bit of a butterfly on him. I don't know how useful that is. I guess it's better than nothing, but you could already get quite far across the chest without it. But there you go. It doesn't look too bad, doesn't really break the sculpt or anything. So not too bad and quite nice to have. I'll just pop that back in now because otherwise it gets in the way. Now, I want to stress that one of my nitpicks about this figure may happen when I try this, because this whole upper assembly is held in with a very strange mechanism, locking mechanism on the neck. And I've found that whenever I move the chest, if I put too much pressure on it in certain places, the whole thing collapses and pings apart. So I'm going to try and do it without. It has a waist swivel, ratcheted, which, you know, is good. And you also get a fairly decent ab crunch. And by doing it the way I just did, I've managed not to explode the entire figure, which is good. Let's pop that back together. The gun, the reason I want to mention the gun now is because that is held in with a little peg into a groove at the bottom of the hand. Now, again, I don't know if you can see that, but it's not the best connection on mine, at least. And I find if I knock it, it becomes loose. But thankfully, the hand does at least hold it in. But it doesn't feel secure in the way that a lot of guns do when they lock into arms, etc., hands even. But anyway, just thought I'd mention that. It might just be my copy, but probably not. Moving down, we come to the legs. Obviously, we have hip skirts at the back and side, and you have some lovely retractable ones at the front there, which give you a really lovely can-can. You get quite a lot of movement back as well, and you get a really nice outward movement. On the knees, they are locked in with a mechanism here, which if you release, you may get more of a bend on it, but it makes their leg really floppy and it's a pain to re-engage because it has a tendency to flip down and it's irritating anyway. But without that, you do get a little over 90 anyway, so that suits my purposes. I still haven't taken the sticker off, as always. You get thigh swivel, which obviously is, as with most figures, is blocked by the moulding, so you can't rotate inward as much, but you get a nice amount outwards. And then coming down, last but not least, to the bottom of the figure. Now, you have heel spurs, which are really necessary, I think, to make him stand evenly. Without them, he's a bit wobbly, bit lopsided. But you have those, but if they can inhibit the rocker and the tilt, so you might want to move them down a bit. But with them, you still get quite a good amount of toe tilt there. As I say, if you move those, you get a much better amount. Though it does reveal the exhausts. And you get a reasonable amount of rocker. So you can pull off some decent stances with him. Although, as I said, if you disengage various joints and clips and whatever, you can get a bit more range out of him as well. So that's pretty much it for articulation. As I said, it's got a lot of good things going for it in terms of that. You know, for a car bot of this size, obviously not all the advanced articulation or range of motion you would get with bigger bots, but I think it's enough for something like this. And you can get some really nice dynamic poses out of him from the things I've been playing around in the last couple of days or so, on and off. I haven't actually spent that much time with him, if I'm honest. But anyway, give you another quick 360. I think he looks really good. As I said, really, really cartoon accurate silhouette. the sculpt is really nice. I do love the sculpt, and I think that's why I'm so irked about the colours not being exactly what they could and probably should have been, and not what I wanted them to be. But you know, it is what it is. If I'm honest, I'll probably learn to live with it. But I do, I did feel like I needed to point out. I'd be remiss if I didn't point it out, given that I've been quite vocal about it elsewhere, and it was a genuine annoyance for me. Anyway, enough about that. I think probably the next thing worth doing is to do some bot mode comparisons. Then we'll do an alt mode comparison, and then come back with some final thoughts. So just bear with me when I get set up, and we'll come back with the bot mode comparisons. Okay, and for comparisons, it seems logical to start with my other Sideswipe. And here he is represented by Bagcube's Steamroll. Now, I did also originally have the MP, the original MP, not the Plus version, so MP12, and I got rid of that even before I had Steamroll because it was just so outdated. Even back then, I knew that I was going to go more toon, so I went for Steamroll, and I've been happy with him for a while. Not completely satisfied, but happy enough as a shelf filler. But I think it's pretty obvious, isn't it, or pretty evident that when you put him side by side with this guy, there's really no contest. It's incredible how things have come on. It really is. And just pretty much every way this guy destroys Steamroll. The sculpt is so much more toon accurate. It's crazy. I'm trying to look at Steamroll and see if there's anything that I think does better, and really, no, apart from obviously the elephant in the room of the white. I do genuinely believe, as I've said, maybe you can see it now they're next to each other, that the white, the original colour scheme, pops more against the red, and that's why I'm quite annoyed that they haven't done it. But other than that, there's just really nothing that I can say is better about Steamroll. I mean, look at the head and face sculpt on it. It was always poor, tiny little pinhead. Doesn't really look like the character that much. He's got a lot of car kibble. I know this guy's got some, but this guy's got an awful lot of car kibble hanging off of him. Yeah, just the knees are awful. Honestly, even the chest, which I was a fan of at the time because it compresses compared to the MP, it just, huge compared to the Fantastic Model version there. And I know the DX9 version is probably a bit of a halfway house between these two, maybe slightly more stylized. It does look reasonably good, but yeah, I still don't think, even if I had it here, I don't think I'd be looking at that in favour of, over that, sorry. So yeah, that's the main comparison I wanted to do. I've tried to replicate the poses as best I can, but as you can see, this guy just cannot pull off the same kind of cool looking dynamic poses. Just looks very awkward and odd. Anyway, I wanted to do that one, but I also wanted to bring in a couple of other car bots from the same manufacturer so we can see what's going on there. Let's put him front and center. And then we'll bring in Jive and Phantasm, who are the two most recent modern car bots other than Rambo. And they look really good together, don't they? Although again, I'm being a bit passive aggressive here bringing in Phantasm because it illustrates the point I'm trying to make about the colours. With Jazz, they've gone for the classic white because he is pretty much predominantly white, isn't he? And it looks great. And that's what I don't understand, is why aesthetically they've pivoted towards using this weird pearlescent off-white. They didn't do it for their Jetfire X, as I've said. It's kind of baffles me. But as much as I think these two figures, and particularly this one, would look better with their iconic white, pure brilliant white, they do look really good together. So I think the car bots are coming along nicely, and I hope that when they get around to the Datsun Bros, and hopefully a wheeljack as well, we will get some really nice molds out of that. And hopefully they don't make wheeljack off-white. Anyway, let's get rid of these guys and bring in the last of the comparisons. Just move him over a little bit, give some breathing room for his Lambro. Obviously MP39 there, Sunstreaker. Little bit long in the tooth these days. I mean, it was never perfect, I'm sure we can all agree, but it is still enough, or close enough to the two model that you can look at them together and think, yeah, they're roughly from the same wheelhouse. But yeah, there's no denying that this guy just looks much nicer, especially from any angle that's not dead on. I think Sunstreaker looks okay if you look at him from this angle, still quite panelly, but once you start moving around the figure, you know, the cracks definitely start to show. Whereas, as we've seen with Rambo, he looks great from pretty much every angle. But they're still going to look great on the shelf together. I'm very happy to have two modern interpretations of this character, of these characters now, sorry. And yeah, Steamroll was just not really it. He was a good shelf warmer, served a purpose, loyal servant and all that, but very happy to have these guys. Anyway, I am now going to brave the transformation so I can give you a brief overview of the vehicle mode and a comparison, but I'm sure this will be, well, I'm dreading it from the videos I've seen anyway, so I may be slightly frustrated when I come back, and what will seem like mere seconds to you will probably have taken me an hour, but we shall see, and hopefully I'm not swearing having broken something. Anyway, I will be back with the comparison video in a second. Okay, so yeah, that was a bit of an arduous task. I think, what was it, like his namesake, it gave me a war I wouldn't believe. But I got there eventually, and yeah, it's a red Lamborghini Countach. It looks fine, you know, it does everything you'd want it to do, but you know, it looks animation accurate from every angle. It is a nice looking vehicle, not going to dispute that, but I don't know if I'd want to go through getting it there again because of the issues I had. You'll notice now that not everything's even tabbed in properly. Like I had real trouble getting this spoiler tabbed in. Just doesn't want to go, and I don't want to force it. I also had a real problem. There are some tabs here that you're supposed to lock these arms in with, and they just refused to go in without, well, me needing to apply enough force that I thought I was going to break something, so I've given up on that. It does hold together without, but it's just annoying. And again, getting all of this assembly, and I'm still not convinced that's entirely correct, but getting all of this locked in was difficult. But you know, it does look pretty cool, pretty sleek in car mode. But yeah, that's kind of what there is. I mean, there are some gimmicks. You have these little pop-up headlights. You press these little buttons here, and then you get these popping up here. You can open the doors as well, I believe. Let's see if I can do that without the whole thing falling apart. Oh, come on. Yes, no, maybe. No, you see what I mean? Everything just, I'm not even going to bother. You know what a door looks like. It's just, yeah, it's not worth the effort. And this does pop up as well. You can open that. You can see there's the faux chest piece under there like that. So it's not even an engine, but it does it if you can be bothered with that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think the effort required to get him into car mode really was worth it for me, given that I also have this boy here, which is Steamroll. And for all intents and purposes, they look pretty damn similar. This has a slightly nicer cherry red colour. That's a little bit duller, but it still looks okay. Yeah, I think all things considered, this still holds up very well in alt mode. They are very, very similar, as you can see. This was also a complete nightmare to get into car mode as well, so I don't think I'm going to want to be transforming either one of them back and forth too often. But yeah, I really do think that they hold up, both of them. You can see they're pretty similar styled. I think arguably this one's slightly more accurate in terms of the detailing, on the rear lights here, and the mirrors being red instead of black like they are. And obviously you have the little Lamborghini logo on the front there that you don't with this guy. So yeah, Bagcube did a good job though with the alt mode. I mean, it's not a difficult alt mode to mess up, is it really? Sorry, not a difficult alt mode to get right, I should say. If it was a difficult alt mode to mess up, then they would have messed it up. But yeah, this one also has a few gimmicks. The engine also flips open from memory. Again, I don't know how easy it is to do that, so I'm not going to try too hard. Can I do it quickly? Can I hell? No, maybe. Yeah, there you go. But you can just see his head in there, so it's not really worth it. And these lights do pop up as well, but in order to do it on this guy, you have to untab the wheels and some other stuff and press up on it, and I really cannot be bothered. You do have weapon storage as well on this guy. But yeah, I think I'm going to keep this guy as my alt mode bot. I think he looks really good. This guy definitely is the bot mode choice, but yeah, there were just some real difficult bits and pieces getting him into there, trying to get everything to tab together. I thought I was going to break things. It's just not an enjoyable, fun experience. Took way too long for it to go from a robot into this pretty basic car. But then, as I said, I have to be fair, so did this guy as well. They both had their frustrations, slightly different frustrations. The engineering on this is a lot cleverer, I will say, a lot more modern, but ultimately they're the same clean car. This guy's heftier, but yeah, I'm not really seeing one that's significantly better than the other. Maybe this one shades it, but this has less sort of cut up on panel lines and things overall. So yeah, I'm lucky enough to have both, one for each version. Anyway, that's enough of the comparisons for now. Let's get him back into bot mode and we'll come back with some final thoughts. Well, thankfully that was a far less arduous task than getting into alt mode. It's relatively straightforward to get it back to bot mode. A few little niggles here and there, mainly around getting the upper torso tabbed in. That whole neck assembly that holds things together is not the best, but I got there in the end, and getting everything else done was fairly simple, and I'm pleased to say no paint issues that I can see after transforming, no damage to the faction symbol, which was always my concern when I transform those two things. So yeah, escaped unscathed. Well, now we're back in bot mode. I'm going to try and keep this fairly short because I've given detailed thoughts elsewhere, but having had some time to sit with the figure and putting my preconceptions aside and what I wanted from it and just looking at it for what it is, I have to say it is a bloody good looking figure. There's no getting away from that. I think perhaps it's possibly the most accurate masterpiece figure I've had in recent memory. It's incredibly evocative of the animation model, and I'm putting aside the colors. I'm not going back on that. I'm not backing down. I stand by what I've said. But putting that aside, everything else is so great that it really does go a long way towards making you forget that there's that tiny little annoyance. Honestly, the silhouette of the sculpt on this guy is pretty much perfect. It's incredible how close it looks and how much how evocative it is of the animation model. It looks great from every angle. The red really pops. The face sculpt and the head sculpt are the best I've seen, much better than the Bagcube and the MP versions of the figure. And I think from what I've seen, the DX9 version. I love the chest. I think that's the one version of this figure that's nailed that smaller chest in bot mode properly. I love the flared legs. This is a really good figure, It's a really, really nice looking bot. It's going to look really nice on my shelf. I think it's probably going to be my best looking car bot now, if I'm honest. And that's not something I expected when I first saw the renders, or even when I saw the recent videos. I was thinking, oh, I am really going to be put off by this. But No, as I said, having had some time to sit with it, I've come around to a degree, and while I'm always going to be niggly about the white, I can live with it because everything else is so good. So I appreciate that at the time of reviewing, this is probably sold out at most UK retailers. So if you are looking for it, you might have to go further afield. But if you're on the fence, hopefully this goes some way towards giving you an honest appraisal of it. And I personally would say if you are looking for a Sideswipe, or even if you're looking for a more tune accurate one, looking to upgrade after a while, this is a no-brainer. If you can get hold of it for a reasonably good price, I would say go for it. It's that good. I don't think we're going to see a better MP Sideswipe for a long time. So anyway, that's all I've got to say. This has been another longer video than I intended, as always. But it just remains for me to say thanks for watching, and I hope everyone's keeping well, and I will catch you in the next video, which hopefully, fingers crossed, will be Fans Toys Turbo. And we'll see what colour they do the legs on that one, eh? Until then, everyone, take care and have fun.